Hi, everybody. It's Michelle Hill, your legacy builder at Winning Proof, and I am here with another episode of Winning Proof Unscripted. If you like this interview with Juan Lee, please like this and subscribe to my channel so you can be notified of all the new interviews that I do. So I am going to read Juan's bio so you know a little bit about him, but you'll be really excited to hear this one. He has a lot of really cool things to say. Juan Lee has seen the message of love made so difficult that it's confusing. He removes the confusion by making it very simple. He personalizes religions and made the message of love universal. He finds the things that people have in common instead of looking for the things that divide. Juan Lee is an author and teacher on the powerful principle of love. For over 30 years, he has studied organized religion to find the elements that unite humanity and share the message with those who need it. Raised within the Christian church, Juan has turned to teachings about love over the years to find strength, understanding, and hope. So welcome, Juan.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And I have to tell everybody, we did a take one of this several months ago, and it just didn't record right. I couldn't upload it onto YouTube. So this is Juan Lee take two.
That's good. I'll take two.
Okay, me too. So why is love surrounded by so much confusion?
I think the reason that I came to realize that was that we were really never taught, really what love is. And we basically gained our own understanding as it relates to how it benefits me or ourselves. And it's turned into something that's extremely selfish motivated. And it really, that is everything but what it is. And so it's just over years and over time. I mean, we really have so many ways that we look at it, and I love this, I love that. And it's all as it relates to how it benefits me and what it makes me feel like. And that's as far from the truth as what it is. It's something that really connects, something that provides us a foundation and something that we all have in common. And it's not about how it benefits me, but more so, how can I benefit someone else?
Yeah, yes. And people say, okay, so you say people change, love doesn't, which is so true. Talk about the evolution of love in a person's life, because how we start out isn't how we end up.
Well, yeah, I mean, the thing about love is as we get older and as time goes on, we find ourselves realizing that there's some things that we really just don't understand, and we have to gather some kind of understanding of it. Like for instance, this experience called life. We have to understand that it's a temporary experience, and it's not something that we get the opportunity to change, but actually we have to accept it. And love allows us to understand it so that we can flourish and grow and develop ourselves while we're in this experience called life. And so we have to transition to understand that. And that's something that for the most part, we don't get. We don't get the understanding of what life is about and how we're to connect with one another and how we're meant to help and to assist one another in being able to reach our own potential. My potential is in you, in the sense of being able to get it out of me. That ability that you have a need, that if I have it, I'm going to be able to provide that need that you have. And that's what love does, is it acts on behalf of another.
Yeah, it really does. And so my question is, based on what you just said, what happens on the intersection when love meets purpose?
Well, the fulfillment comes there. I mean, when you're fulfilled and when you're able, see, the whole cycle is that love first desires to tell us and determine who we are. It really it allows us to find out who we are ourselves. And then once we find out who we are, then we develop that into what we have to offer. And then once we give that off, then we give it. And then that's the point where we meet the needs of others. And that's how we get fulfilled, because we get that validation because it meets the needs of others. And that's all we're looking for in this experience called life, is validating that which we have abundance of once we've developed it, so that we can give it. And then, that fulfillment comes and it's like, okay, it was all worth it. So at the end of this experience, we've invested who we are, that originality, that uniqueness as to who we are, into humanity, so that it can protect and preserve the next generation going forward, that we would have invested something into that generation.
Oh man, that is profound. If people might have to listen to this one twice to to get the deepness of what you're saying, because it sounds easy to listen to, but it's hard to implement on a daily basis, it seems like sometimes.
Well, absolutely. And I understood that when I wrote my book, Love Made Simple, it didn't imply that it was easy. It was just to let us know that there is a course, there is a system that we can follow that has already been in place. It's put in place for humanity, for the sake of humanity. And we all are a part of humanity. No matter what continent you're in, what country you're in, what state you're in, we're all a part of humanity. And so as we love one another, we set the platform, we set the foundation for us to all be successful together. And that's, it's not always easy. It's not always easy because everybody has its own and their own perspective as it relates to any particular given situation that we might confront. And so it takes a little bit of understanding and ability to be able to adjust and to be able to be very much so being able to be tolerant, to be able to allow conversation to present itself so that we can begin to see others' perspectives and be able to understand that, you know what, there is a full circle around each perspective. Around each situation. And that means that there's going to be a full circle of perspectives on that same identical situation that we're all looking at. And that full picture requires everybody's perspective to be considered, because just as you have a perspective, someone else has a perspective, and neither one or both of them are just as important to the fullness of understanding what that situation is.
Yeah, that is so real, especially in the last couple of years when perspectives have been attacked severely,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So talking about, that's a perfect segue for my next question, which is, how can love heal the racial divide that seems to continually permeate our country?
Well, there's so many different variables into that scenario, but it all comes down to the fact of what we just talked about, is that we have to realize that no matter, as we talking about racism, everybody has their own interpretation as it relates to what that looks like. Okay, we know in some people's perspective that it doesn't exist. It's something that doesn't exist. And what does that mean for people who have that perspective, is that they've got to have a tolerance of understanding it. Just because they're not seeing the manifestation of it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist.
Yes.
Okay. Now, and then you have those that have a perspective of it, that just because their perspective of it is maybe a little bit more extreme than others' perspective of it, doesn't make that theirs is less important than those that have had just not quite as much of that aspect of that particular situation in their life. So there's a lot of different ways that people look at this particular subject. But the key thing is that be willing to be tolerant of others' perspective. Now, doesn't mean that you have to agree with it,
Yeah.
but understand that what we're trying to do is have a conversation concerning something that maybe you don't or I don't quite understand it, but we will not understand it if we don't talk about it. We've got to be able to engage the conversation and say, this is how this makes me feel from my perspective. Okay. And then okay, then someone else shares, this is how I feel about from my perspective. And now can I consider, then I can consider that perspective in my understanding that. Yeah. So it's a big picture, but it all basically is everybody being willing to hear the perspective and be tolerant to be able to at least engage it, because it's a divisiveness in this country that is continually eating at the very fiber of the country.
Yes. Yes. Very, very, very true. Ooh, nothing like the last 2 years to do that.
I think for a lot of people that we don't realize, what we have to accept is that what do we have in common?
Yes.
And I don't care what it is that we have, how we view any particular situation. We've got to understand that we have something in common. And for Americans, we've got to accept the fact that, look, we're all Americans. Okay. Now, if that becomes an issue, then that's the you can't even get to that racial or the question of racism if we can't accept the fact that we all have something in common called citizenship. Mm-hmm. If we can't all accept one another as being equal in that sense, you know, it's going to be difficult to address racism, because that's a perspective.
Yeah, very true. And it's a, you know, decades, hundreds of years long issue that can't really be tackled in one answer. But I think you did a fabulous job of wrapping it up in a capsule of understanding. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's your whole premise, finding commonalities.
Yeah, absolutely. That's basically it. We've got to accept the fact that we have something in common. That's where love talks about humanity. No matter where you are in the world, that one concept resonates around the world, in the sense that we have to realize that this is the thing that we have in common. So now let's find something to begin to address whatever the issue is based around that which we have in common, instead of those things that divide us. Because it's always easy. You're never going to agree on anything that divides you.
Yes.
It's not. You're not going to. So we got to get to the point where what we have in common.
Yes, absolutely. And I want to kind of turn the corner in more of a personal way. Can all of us, most of us, I would say, have had experiences with narcissists, true narcissistic, a true narcissist in every sense of the word, and those with narcissistic tendencies? I don't know if this is a yes or no question, because I know it's a loaded question, but are narcissists capable of love?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Here's the thing. There's no difference in narcissism than it is in depression.
Oh.
The focus is on self. If they can get past self, because see, they think that self is what brings fulfillment, is giving them the pleasure that gives them the fulfillment. The same thing that causes a person to be depressed is the thing that they're focusing on, trying, why can't I get what I need to be happy, or whatever and for those that have to deal with those, especially narcissism, you basically have to allow them, you have to know that they're pain and they're hurting, trying to fulfill something that they can never fulfill.
Okay.
They can never fulfill it. Now, you have the ability to be able to navigate how you interact with them. Okay. So then they can, because they like to be have power.
Yes.
And so in that case, you have to understand that, and then use the love to be able to demonstrate to them what your boundaries are. And I think a lot of people lose their boundaries when they come around and they get around narcissists, because they're just they're just overwhelming. They're just taking over things. And you have to stand up and say, okay, these are my boundaries. And I'm not going to allow you to infringe on my boundaries. And so they will then either have the opportunity to say, okay, I'm either going to engage you on your terms, or then you're not going to be engaging me.
Yes, I have found that to be very true, dealing with that type of personality.
Yeah. I mean, you've got to be able to know your boundaries for the person who's handling and dealing with the narcissist. They have to be able to see a reason to want to change. And typically they have to have resistance. They need resistance. And so you're saying my boundaries will be their resistance. And if they want to be engaged with me, then they're going to have to change. Yes. And that's where it takes strength from your person from the outside looking at that, going, okay, I have to be strong for them and be willing to walk away if they're not willing to engage.
Yes.
On my terms.
Exactly, because they're used to getting things their way, how they want them, when they want them, and they really don't. Yeah. So that excellent answer. I really appreciate that. Yeah. And another personal, question: when a married couple find themselves in a stale, lifeless relationship, can one person resurrect it by deciding to love unconditionally when the other person is totally unwilling?
Well, that's a two-part question.
Yes.
Because you can't make a person stay where they don't want to stay.
Yes.
Okay. But you can manage the relationship with love to the point where they want to stay at the level that they are comfortable at, and still be true to who you are at the same time. Because again, remember, love is what we act on behalf of another. And so you're going to be able to give them what they need at the same time as to being able to rest, or to be able to know that what love is about giving. And see, as it relates to marriage, it's about the institution. It's about the connection that we're talking. Now, who has to pay the most of who has to be most engaging on that? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who's the one that's doing the most engaging. All one has to do is be willing not to quit.
Oh, excellent. Okay. Because I know there's a lot of married couples out there. And again, I referenced the last 2 years, it just blew a lot of marriages apart, but that wasn't because of this thing. It was because there were already troubles brewing under the surface anyway.
Yeah. I mean, all you got to have is two that's not willing to quit. Doesn't matter how much they're willing to give, as long as they're not willing to quit.
Excellent. I love that. Yeah. Hear that, all married couples, don't quit.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's one of the 7 attitudes of love, is tenacity, and that the ability not to quit.
Yes.
Just not giving up in spite of whatever the circumstances that will be confronted. Just don't quit. You'll eventually get to a place that you want to be.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you for that. I think that really will speak to a lot of people. And I want to ask about the singles like me out there. What attributes of love should they be looking for if they're seeking a mate?
You know what? The first thing that you do is to define who you are and what it is that you are about. Okay. Find out what those things, those uniquenesses, those original things that are in you. And they will be attracted to those people that do the same things that you want to do or like to do. So if you are a person who likes to enjoy going to see a play, or you go see musicals or whatever you like to go, or outings and in the wilderness, walking and stuff, when you know who you are and then begin to exercise that which you like to do and enjoy to do, you will inevitably attract those to do the same thing that you do. Those are the people that you find that add value to what's important to who you are. Not going out there looking for somebody to feel something that you don't yourself even know about yourself, and you will attach yourself to somebody else's personality, somebody else's dream, somebody else's fulfillment. You don't want that. You want somebody to add value to who you are. You got to know who you are so that they can add value to. Relationships are meant to add value, not draw, not to take away. Okay. So then it makes it easy. It makes it easy you to give what you have, because it's consistent with what someone else that's connected to you are wanting and have desire and need of. So that's what I'm saying. Find out first who you are. Define who you are. Develop 3 characteristics. Know self, accept self, develop self, so that you can give self. In that process, you'll be able to find out what will attract you, what will come towards you.
Yeah, and that's so true, because being a mature single, as I am, in a lot of church settings, I go to church, I worship, I pray, everything, but you're taught, and I'm not saying this is a bad thing, in biblically, love God first, love others, and love yourself. So you have to almost make a conscious decision, because it seems counterintuitive to say, love yourself first. Melody Beattie, in her book, The Language of Letting Go, the entry today, May 25th, and I've been through that book, I would say 12 times now. It's a daily, reading. And it was all about love yourself, nurture yourself, do that. And that seemed, what do you tell people that seems so counterintuitive when you're in a Christian environment?
Well, see, boy, you just look, it doesn't change who we are inevitably intuitive, who we are. We need to connect. Okay. We're meant to connect to one another. But we're not going to connect to everybody and anybody. Just like everybody in church, you ain't got nothing in common with everybody in church. Okay. So just because they in church ain't an answer, is not the reason for you to want to do something or connect with somebody. They got something. I really recommend that you find somebody outside of the church. Not saying that they have to be in the church, but they can't be in the church. But I'm saying something that you can do outside of the church that you have in common. Those things that inevitably make you up as it relates to who you are. When I said, maybe you like to go parasailing. Maybe you like to go do, maybe you enjoy horseback riding. Maybe you like walking in the wilderness, or walking in the forest, or whatever. Those are the things that you find that you begin to connect with, not the big things of the concepts of church. In the concept, because everybody got their own interpretation as to what they're hearing when they're in there. Okay. But it becomes to the point where you get to the application. How do they apply these things, and how do you connect with them when they're applying them? You got to do that on the outside.
Okay. That makes total sense. And I'm sure the singles out there, to me, it's tough being a single in today's world.
I don't disagree with you. I think that it's challenging because so many things are changing so rapidly, and even the way in which you communicate and interact with people has changed. I mean, this online dating, where it's just this, these apps and stuff that you actually, you messaging people, and where is the relationship? When do you begin to establish the relationship where we're doing things? It's a new way. And so you've got to really get to the point where, okay, that how can I get to know this person? Because you can't do it, in an app. You can't message me and know me. I need to be able to see you, hear you, and then begin to see the things that happen when things are said. And you can't do that in a message.
That's right. That is so true. That very true. It's almost like a fairy tale-ish experience. It's not real. It's a fable. You're not living real life situation. Messaging, anybody can say anything. So that's where, the aspect of love made simple is you can't have love made simple when you're in a pretend environment.
Well, I think if you've got to realize that there's something that you've got to be able to identify with, and that's in person. You can't do this. Back in the day, it was long distance relationships, and they were very difficult because there were nuances that you just could not experience. Now those nuances now are normal, whereas is that they're acceptable, and they still are the same problems now as they were then. Mm-hmm. But yet we've made them to be very, common sense, and they're like, but we lose those nuances that are very important in relationships. That ability to see the emotions and understand the feelings and feel the vibe, so to speak, of the moment.
Yeah, that's so true. So true. So I want to ask you and tell listeners, viewers, more about your book, Love Made Simple. What can they expect when they buy it and they read it?
Well, again, it's Love Made Simple, and it's the guide to inner peace, contentment, and success. And the way I like to say it, to define success, it's the clarity that you need to navigate life successfully. It's that peace that surpasses all the things and understanding that you would rather otherwise not begin to have some type of clarity about. And so also, and it's for every stage in life as it relates to teenagers, young adults, and seniors, as it relates to how you progress throughout this experience called life, so that that, there's success at every stage in your life, as a teenager, as a young adult, as a senior, there's successes there. And love is the way that you gain those success if you understand how to apply them. They're attitudes to be able to allow you to make decisions and solve problems at every stage in your life. So those are the things that you gain from the book, but ultimately that you are an original, never to be compared with anyone else. There's nobody that has ever been like you, and no one will ever be like you. You are an original. And so you have what it takes to be successful in this experience called life, so that you can invest it into humanity, so that humanity can continue, so that you will see the fruits of your, not see it, but know that you're going to live on into the next generation based on your investment into humanity. That's it. It's simple, but not easy.
That's exactly, yes. And it's been in my Amazon cart for a minute now. It's going to make its way to the buy button. I just keep things in my cart perpetually, like probably a lot of people do.
Well, it's hopefully it's a short, it's a small, it's an easy read. It's a short read, and I hope you get something out of it that you can carry along with you daily.
Yeah, it's really somewhat of a manual.
Yeah, it's a guide. It's something that you can use. Hopefully, you will get the concepts and you're able to apply them in your daily activities. And it's really to give you just a different perspective on this thing called life, because you know what, so many of us are living it just day by day in the sense of trying to figure it out when it's already been discovered. Hey, love is the answer that connects us all together. that gives us what we need so that we can be, fulfilled. And then at the end of the day, it's a choice though. We have to choose to want to do it. And if you don't, nobody can make you, but at the same time, nobody can stop you.
Yeah.
It's something that we all have the capacity and ability to do if we want to.
Yeah, absolutely. And some people choose more than others. And it's dealing with the people that don't choose that and just enacting those our choices to love. And that's unconditional. That's the unconditional. I'm going to love you no matter what within reason, no matter what you do. Of course, we have boundaries. No, it's not, but it's unconditional as a matter of if you're in a relationship or parents and kids, spouses, friends, no matter what, it's that unconditional love. That's what I'm saying is that's the choice. You're not acting so great today, but I choose to love you anyway.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. And there's so many times that, when we preference love with unconditional, it implies that there are other kinds of love. And that's just, I think, a little bit as to why we're so confused about love. We have a tendency that, if you got unconditional love, it's like, okay, now that's something greater than I'm willing to do. But see, you can't sometimes love on behalf of another and decide sometimes to not. It's an attitude. It's knowing that when you're addressing the situations and the issues, that you have not only their best interests in mind, but you have humanity's best interests in mind. And so that sometimes have to take a sacrifice. You've got to sacrifice so that you can demonstrate that type of love. And so it's a case-by-case basis, but you've got to understand the bigger picture to be able to operate in it in a daily basis. If you don't, it'll seem like in many cases, as you run into different situations, that hold on, look at what's going to happen to me if I do that. And that's never going to be the situation. We've got to be willing to be so assured and confident as it relates to who we are, to understand that there is not anything too great that we have to give that is we're going to be not willing to give it. Because again, this experience is temporary. And what is the greatest, there is no greater thing than to make this worth the things that we have to give. This is it. If this is what it takes to that be my investment into humanity, because it's going to be here long after I'm gone. Mm-hmm. And you look at the history books and you see those that have made the impacts that we have a tendency to look back on and say, hey, look at what they did, is that they sacrificed so that they would leave an inheritance that we can live on into the future with. So that's what we're talking about, giving that opportunity to invest what it is we have, not being afraid to lose something that's temporary anyway.
Yes. That's so good. That's so profound. And I know you have your book, but you offer other services too. So what are some other services you offer?
Well, it's basically Clear Journey is my nonprofit. It's called Clear Journey, and we basically demonstrate love through education and empowerment. So basically, we have a program called Love and Money, and basically it's life and money. My fault. It's life and money. Okay. So it's basically financial literacy, basically looking to educate yourself in being able to manage your money so that you can reach your dreams. So that these things that you understand that there's, for every decision and every choice that you make, there's some type of financial implication in it. And we've got to understand that in the system that we live in, this life that we have, there's some ramifications. There's some financial responsibilities that goes with everything that we do, everything. And so be mindful of those choices when we're making decisions as it relates to the finances that we come across. we can't be so you know, so present in the sense that I need my gratification right now.
Yes.
You know, we've got to defer some gratification so that we can be able to prepare and to plan for the future while we live in the present. So it's that type of thing. And we have some other programs that are coming online, but by all means, go to clearjourney.org and you can see what we have on there. We're looking at looking for donors and we're looking for sponsors. And by all means, support us. There's a donation button there that we really love support from anyone interested in supporting what we're doing, because what we're basically trying to do is help people navigate life more successfully.
Oh, that is awesome. And I'll put all the links and everything to clearjourney.org and the other website you have in the show notes so people can access them. So how can people get in touch with you? Their interest is peaked now. They think that, you know, what you had to say, they really resonate with it. How can they connect with you?
You can email me at either place at info@clearjourney.org. I'm on all the social media, Juan Lee Author at Facebook, on Twitter at Love Made Simple, but anywhere you can reach me. I'm also at info@juanleetheauthor.com because that's where the book is, but you can reach that from clearjourney.org. But yeah, I'm all over and all around. So by all means, reach out. And if it's something that I can do, help you navigate this experience called life a little bit better and easier with love, let me know.
That is awesome. And any parting words of wisdom as we finish?
I think we've touched on everything, understanding that love is the answer for everything in your life. If you got a challenge, love's the answer.
Amen. Thank you, Juan, so much for doing this Take Two. Really appreciate you, appreciate what you're doing. And I'm really thankful you took some time today to answer my questions and just talk to people about love.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. And I just want to tell viewers, you can get in touch with me at winningproof.com. And my email is winningproof@gmail.com. If you have a book idea, a workbook idea, a children's book idea, anything to do with book and publishing, just reach out to me. I'm very, very approachable. So just reach out and I will talk to you and we can brainstorm a little bit and see where it goes. So thank you everybody for watching another episode of Winning Proof Unscripted.